Okay, I think it's time to start this new meeting. Thank you, Joseph, for the introduction. Today we will talk, as you said, about DM Verity. Just fun fact because I'm in a strange situation today. I was working with a university about some cybersecurity topic, and today I'm in the university and I asked for a meeting room and they just give me this meeting room, which is more or less an amphitheater, which is absolutely empty. So that's really fun to be in front of an empty amphitheaters with about 200 people learning in a virtual summit. That's really fun. So just get back to the meeting now. I'm Pierre Gall, working for a company named Witekio. And inside Witekio, I'm building a brand named The Embedded Kit. In The Embedded Kit, we target to support OEM in building their device, and more particularly Linux-based devices. And in that context, we are providing implementation of distribution based on Yocto that pre-enable a set of features, and one of them is Secure Boot. So we today will do feedback meeting about our integration of DM Verity, explain you how we do that, how we encapsulate, why we choose DM Verity for our implementation of this second part, I would like to say, of the Secure Boot implementation. After you are started your kernel, you would like to secure your file system, your driver, block driver, and you can use DM Verity for that. I'm working in this embedded ecosystem for now 20 years. I have 3 children. I'm pleased to share with you today about our integration of DM Verity. To start, just get back to some basics about Secure Boot. Gregor in the previous meeting already introduced the concept of Secure Boot, that is a chain of trust, and just would like to focus on maybe one specific topic in this Secure Boot concept, which is how you do this checking and how you ensure the integrity, because Secure Boot is all about integrity or authenticity, and it's based on a signature mechanism. So what does that mean, based on a signature mechanism? For those who don't really know, you will be able to create a hash of something, which is a small footprint, fingerprint, which are irreversible of a specific data block that will be your bootloader, your kernel, a firmware, something you would like to authenticate. And then you will use the asymmetric keys concept of a private key and a public key. And by encrypting the hash with a private key, you create a signatures. And everybody with the public key will be able to validate if this signature is valid by redoing, using the public key to encrypt, decrypt the hash and checking if you get the appropriate hash. So only the owner of the keys can sign something, and everybody can validate that it has been signed by exactly these people. And this hash plus asymmetric keys mechanism guarantees the integrity of a system. So that's the foundation of all the Secure Boot concept. And this will be interesting to understand that in DM Verity, there is a concept of using a hash and the advanced hash mechanism to be able to do that on a wider area, not just on a specific small bootloader, but on a wider block driver, on a wider file system, wider area. So key concept is installed. Now let's start about the first steps. We have just seen how you can implement that on x86 based mechanism with UEFI. The initial step for enabling Secure Boot is based on, sometimes you can call that root of trust. That means the internal processor software will start loading your bootloader in the most appropriate secure way by verifying some signatures. And then the bootloader will be able to do exactly the same with your kernel. So the ROM code, internal processor code that you could not change, will use a public key that you have fused. And I know that just after me, there is a dedicated presentation around EMX implementation of this Secure Boot. So you will probably deep dive into how it works on an ARM-based solution. But the ROM code will check the bootloader. This first level, this first root of trust is always something which is hardware specific. You have no generic approach. It's always linked to the kind of hardware and the way the hardware is implementing it. And then you have a bootloader which is authenticated. That will be able to load the next step. That's why we call that a chain of trust. So your bootloader will try to load a kernel and validate the signature of this kernel. We are using the same mechanism, a hash of the kernel plus a signature. As our public key is inside the bootloader is authenticate, we are sure that what we are loading, so the chain of trust can continue. In U-Boot, you have a mechanism linked to this verified boot concept named U-Boot verification, U-Boot fit verification, that we use in our distribution to check kernel fit image and ensure that it loads properly. So we are now in a kernel and we are able to continue our authenticity boot process. Next steps is how we can go further, because if you stop at the kernel, that means your secure boot process is not enough. You will have a root file system that you could be read-write. Your attackers will be able maybe to write something, to modify something, binary, install a new file, replace your applications. That's definitely not enough if you stop at the kernel level. So you need a mechanism to validate the file system integrity. And this step is mandatory if you want to have the full chain of trust implemented until the end, and ensuring that your application running on your product is yours and not somebody else trying to do something. So we have to choose the right integrity mechanism for validating a file system. So what we need, something that will detect the intrusion and the modification at runtime with the minimum overhead. We need something that will have a minimal impact on boot time, because if you start doing in the wrong direction, you could impact drastically your boot time. You need something which is based on a cryptographic validation. Signature mechanism we see as an introduction is perfect. And we need something which is linked to a read-only system partition, because as soon as you are in a secure boot file system, you will need to be in read-only mode to avoid any modification. If you want to authorize modification, you will have to control the modification you authorize, like, for example, a specific data partition that will not authorize application execution or something like that. So we have the requirements. Let's start with the basic step, like we do for the kernel. What's about just generating a big hash, a hash on the entire file system, and then checking the putting a signatures and checking the signature at startup. Definitely not a good solution. It's the worst solution you can imagine for a file system, because first it will drastically delay your boot time, because you will have to compute a huge hash on the entire file system. We are talking about potentially gigabytes of data to hash. It will, in a second time, only protect at the boot time, but not in a dynamic way, not when you are running your system. So that's absolutely not sufficient to say that you are full secure boot till the end of the chain. I mean, till the application is started. So we remove this ID who is bad, and we start using the appropriate stacks. And the good stacks for in Linux is dmverity. So dmverity is a kernel level block integrity checking system. It's part of a big framework named Device Mapper. That's a DM of dmverity. It's for Device Mapper. That will helps to manage this integrity. It's a standard upstream Linux features. So not something that you will add, or it's completely standard and integrated inside the as a kernel module. It provides the capabilities to do this continuous checking. It's not only a matter of at boot, but it's also during the system usage, and we will see that it's how it optimizes all of that stuff is optimized due to this continuous checking. It's very low cost at boot, because at boot you will not verify the entire file system. the entire data, you will just check a specific root hash. So it's more or less no cost at startup. And at each access of the block, we will see how it works. At each access of the block, the system will be able, with some optimization, and I will try to explain you what are these optimization, how it works, validate if the data the data you are accessing is or not compromised, is authenticate or not authentic. All of this system is based on a Merkle tree or hash tree, so that the MVerity kernel module can easily validate if everything is authentic. How does it work? Let's focus on this Merkle tree concept to understand deeply how the MVerity works. The concept of the hash tree is to divide your entire partition in small chunk named block. Here on the right schema, you can see the L1 block, L2 block, L3 block, L5 block. The block size is something that is a fixed size, but completely configurable. So that means you can configure the size of the block you want. On each block, you will generate a hash. On using these different hash, you will be able to compute a new hash. So for example, here in my example, I build two hash together to build a new hash. And then at the upper level, I build two hash. And at the end, I will get in the schema, it's named top hash, but in the MVerity, we call usually that the root hash. You will get a unique hash that will change as soon as you change one bit of one data block. The hash default function is the MVerity is SHA-256. And using this recursive model, you can easily authenticate your system. At startup, you just need to authenticate the root hash. So only one hash to sign and to validate. And during system access, when you are accessing a block, you will have to recompute few hash in regard of the number of level of your hash tree. So you will never need to compute a hash on the entire file system, but only on the block you had. So if, for example, somebody try to access the L2 data block through the file system, the system will, the MVerity will intercept the message. That's the concept of the device mapper. You have an intermediate driver filtering all access to your block driver. The hash will be recomputed on the L2 access. Then the hash will be at the upper level will be recomposed with the same level hash, and the root hash will be checked at the end. So in regard of the size of your system, you and the number of hash you are hashing all together, you will have a tree with a specific number of level, but it will be really optimized in regard of accessing and verifying the entire file system. That's the core features of the MVerity, and that's how the MVerity is able to check if something is wrong or not. Be careful, you have to perform a signature on top of that. The MVerity provides you the hash solution. On top of it, you can implement your own signature mechanism to validate that the root hash is authentic. And that's the core concept of how to secure boot your file system using the MVerity. Let's try to see more in detail how you can do that. And I try to explain you now the different steps to implement this MVerity mechanism into your own Yocto. Verity setup is a utility coming with the MVerity inside the MVerity ecosystem that will have multiple usage, and one of its usage is the subcommand format. Verity setup format will be used to build the hash tree and the root hash. So this command is something that you will be able to run in your build environment, and that will be used to generate, based on your file system you have generated with Yocto, the root hash and all the hash tree that will be needed for the live checking in your system. So Verity setup is a tool that you will have to integrate into your Yocto build process to ensure to generate the appropriate structures of data that will be used live for your checking. What do you do with these generate structures? In our Linux distribution, Welma, that we distribute as the embedded kit, we have decided to implement full structures with metadata around the file systems, with a header plus the hash tree that will be at the end of the file system. Why do we decided to do like that? You can do whatever you want. If you want, you can put this hash tree somewhere else in your in ItramFS. You can do whatever you want. Once again, the MVerity is a mechanism that helps you to implement that, but does not give you the answer of the how to integrate all together. We have decided to put a header just before the file system and to put the hash tree after the file system. Why? We decided to package all in one because we would like to be able to deploy update at a partition level. So when we deploy an update, we are able to update the entire system, header, file system, hash tree. So if you have different partition, one for your root file system, one for your application, you will be able to have a full package generated by Yocto, ready to go and ready to be shipped using Mender or your favorite update system. In our header, we have a fixed size, so we always know where the file system is, so easy to start the system. As the hash tree has a different size in regard of the size of the file system itself, we always put it at the end, and we store in our header a magic just to be sure that the structure is valid, the hash tree offset that will be used to find the hash tree, and the root hash that have been generated based on the hash tree, and the root hash signatures that will be used to validate that the root hash is valid. Using these structures, we are fully ready to start the system. How do we implement that in Yocto to generate this structure? Let's deep dive. It's not a full demonstration, but just few hints about the different commands we use. So enabling config the MVerity as a kernel features is necessary to have all these stacks enabled in your system. Then we have decided to implement a different type of file system. And in our distribution, you have some file description of your partitioning model. So we have a .part file and a .split file that allow our customer to very easily describe the partition structures. And our system automatically adapts. So that means it automatically adapts the secure boot, but also the update system. Based on that, we have a name for each of our partition type in our file description. And here is an example with a sysrow, so system partition, which is in read only. So we add in our FS tips the sysrow.verity, which is the advanced version of the partition with the header and the hash tree that we have seen just before. You have to implement the specific image command to create this famous sysrow.verity. For that, we have implemented a create verity device, which is our own script that is a mapping of verity setup format we have seen just before, and that takes in parameters the file system itself and the private key, the famous software private key we want to use to sign this partition. What do we do? As we know that our customer don't really like to sign a production image inside a Yocto build environment, our create verity device command is also something that we have in a script, a Python script, that could also work outside of the context of Yocto build. So that means the customer can just take a standard software update package and put it into our script to sign in a specific offline machine, for example. So this create verity device command is something we are able to share externally of the Yocto build. Then we have all the ingredients to be able to build our image. We have create the image dependencies between the sysrow and the sysrow verity to be sure that as soon as we have sysrow, we have the associated verity image that are built. Once again, with our mechanism of generic partitioning description or dynamic partitioning description, you can enable or not in the .part file if you want to protect or not the file system you are describing. So based on that, we can create the dependencies or not. And at the end, we just use the subimage system to create the symlink for the getting the file with the appropriate name. So we now have an image generated with all the headers and footers we need to be able to check that on systems startup. So how it works now, we would like to check that at system startup. Once again, the famous Verity setup utility command line interface will be used, but with a new subcommand named open. This Verity setup open command will create this mapping of your file system, but with the specific structures of data we have put in place. So we are able to read the header we have, find the hash offset. Yeah, there is an option in Verity setup open to specify the hash offset. So you specify the hash offset and your structures, and you can start your system. And at startup, the system will automatically verify after that everything went well. And at all access to your file system, they will have this automatic access through the mapped device to ensure that everything is authenticated. You have some interesting option here and feedback from our experience. You have different way to manage when a bad access occurs. That means if something is corrupted, not requesting the authenticity, you can decide to panic on corruption or to restart on corruption or to ignore on corruption. By default, you have an error message, a standard IO error message. And for sure, that means by default, you have to be careful of what you are expecting when something happens wrong, because I see a lot of our customers just implementing Secure Boot, but never manage the use case where something happens and the system is corrupted. Does you want an error and your application will handle something and block something? Do you want your application to send a message to your central platform device management? Do you want to reboot the device? There is a decision to take about what I want to do when I have a corruption that is detected. Small other feature of the Verity, there is a forward error correction possibility. So just an additional features you can enable if you want to make an additional error correction system to ensure that it's not just a matter of an error in your file system, in your flash, but it's really something that is an error linked to an attacker. How does it work in our implementation? So we now are able to finish the full secure boot chain. So the run code starts the bootloader. The bootloader has a software key, the public key. As it's part of the bootloader and secured by the run code, this public key is authenticated. The software key can be pushed to the kernel. And the kernel rebuilds the software key based on kernel command line. So U-boot can send in that way the appropriated command software key to the kernel. In our distribution, we also put a possibility to integrate a second key, one which is dedicated for the partition, so that you have one for the kernel checking and one for the partition checking. And then the kernel, at system startup, we implement in a small script in an init ramfs that will locate the different partition. And for each partition, start parsing the Verity metadata reader, validate the root hash using the software public key, and create the mapping using this famous Verity open command with the -- hash offset that are in the header itself of the partition. And you can mount all the partition you have to start your system in the most secured way. Few words about x86 version. We had a great presentation just before by Gregory about how you enable your keys. We also implement the support in our Welma distribution, this Secure Boot for UEFI. In our use cases, we decided not to go with Grob, but directly load a kernel as a combo app. So the UEFI directly loads the kernel, checking the software key. And we use UEFI vars to get the appropriate software key from the UEFI and then doing exactly the same process. So interesting to see that in all different architectures, the first steps are very specific, linked to the ROM code and the way the system is booting. And then starting the kernel, we can have a fully generic approach that will work on x86, ARM, and any type of ARM system. DMVerity is very generic for that and really a nice tool in this context. So, wrap up to finish. DMVerity brings all the necessary components to manage the secure boot. It works at a block level. You have seen that we can split the device flash with a block level. DMVerity help in compliance. I don't go back on CRA, secure by design, and so on, but with all these needs we all have about implementing secure by design for being CRA compliant, DMVerity is definitely a tool. Absolutely not covering everything, but a great tools when your risk analysis shows that you need to implement a secure boot. DMVerity is not an entire full solution working out of the box. It needs integration jobs, and this integration is quite critical because you need to do it properly, avoid having some risk in your system. And just an example of risk and what we try to offer with our Yocto distribution to our customer. By default, if you let the U-boot command line enabled, even if you use secure boot, DMVerity everywhere, U-boot command line can be used by any attackers to launch your system with different options or load something else. So if you enable secure boot, you also have a lot of integration job to do, integrating DMVerity with headers, checking the headers, implementing your own structures of data, removing the command line interface in U-boot, and so on. So all of this integration job is complex, have to be tested, and part of the promise we try to offer to our customer at the embedded kit. And last one is DMVerity is part of the device mapper framework, which is a nice framework implementing a lot of solutions for different problems. We could take time maybe next year to talk about the encrypt or the integrity that have other roles, but can play interesting roles for fitting other kind of needs for OEMs and cybersecurity compliance. That's it for me today. So a few words about the embedded kit. We have this Welma feedback I provide to you today about the DMVerity integration, and we are providing a lot of features like system update, secure storage also out of the box for OEMs that would like to go faster. And in this context of CRA, we also are offering a CD scanner tool that identify vulnerability, working very well on Yocto, but also a nice web interface for managing the life cycle of this CV, which is a great activity to do. Thanks a lot for coming, and I will try now to read if there is some question. Let me try to open that. How upgrading the bootloader safely in a secure boot-enabled device works. It's out of the DMVerity scope. If you want to enable a secure boot and update your bootloader, you will just have to be sure that you sign your bootloader with the appropriate private key. So that's not a matter of framework. It's just a matter of using the appropriate private key to sign your bootloader. How to implement a bootloader update is another story. If you want an AB update or not, if you want some, but that's something absolutely doable. Yeah. Would it be possible to automate this provisioning part? I think I was reading question from the previous session now. UEFI. There is open meta, use the Sega Verity. Oh, okay. This presentation. Verificator verified in your setup. Is the Verity header verified in your setup? I mean, you mean the header that we are putting in the around the file system? We are checking using the signatures of the root hash using the public key coming from the previous step of the secure boot. That's how we implement that. So we have a hash that we target to have signatures. We take the public key. We are sure that they are authentic, and we validate that the computation of the signatures gives the same result. There is some question related to the keys and how to use the keys. On our use cases, how we use the keys, that's how we implement the way we are doing the signatures. It's the famous script that we use for signing the different part of the system. We provide a set of script, Python-based script, that implements using different approach the signature mechanism. For all the bootloader part, I'm pretty sure that in the next session you will talk about how the tools provided by NXP, allowing you to do that based on PKCS 11 implementation. But it's also the same with our approach. You have different tools for signing the different steps, and you can use a PKCS 11 interface so that you can easily use an HSM for doing that. Currently enable secure firmware update for device, a public key. Currently they are delivered with the root FS, but they are not very secured. For decryption, I'm thinking about letting fetching keys in the field by themselves via web connection. Have you similar situation? Yeah, that's not exactly in the scope of this DM Verity stuff. The most important is to be sure to trust where you find the key, and using a symmetric key in this context does not work well. No, you need the public key. Okay, using the public key, as soon as you trust the source of the public key, it works. That's usually why we embed the public key in the previous step. That's the concept of chain of trust. The public key is embedded in somewhere that you trust in the previous environment. So as soon as you are able to do, you can do whatever you want. I've got good board overview design since I'm with Rook. You'll use a private key for decryption will be stored in OTP. It can be extracted from a device. Yeah, in your update system, could be Rook, could be Mender, could be SW update, whatever you want. As soon as you want to perform secure update, you will have to do the same kind of public key, private key, and checking the signatures. Once again, the most important is not about the two most important topic is be sure that you are signing with your private key in a secured area, secure manufacturing process, HSM, out of network laptop, and then be sure of the public key you are having. Can be software update even used securely since you have to provide the plain iOS keys. If you commit something, it's no longer a secret. Generic stack could be owned by your own UEFI. How do you protect against a mix and match attack where you are using the separately signed kernel and root FS? So with correct individual signature, but exposing a vulnerability by combining different versions. I'm not sure to catch absolutely the question, but yes, we can separate kernel and root FS. For sure, the customer is responsible to deploy the appropriated coherent approach. So if they don't deploy something coherent, that customer can do whatever they want with. Now we ensure that both of them are authentic. We use, as I said before, we use the same public key coming from the bootloader or one coming inside the kernel, which is authenticate. So we always have this chain of trust. So that's always the same concept of chain of trust that we use.